And just because I know there's going to be a ton of comments, I'll introduce myself again. My name is Mackenzie Ryan. I'm a digital rights attorney. I'm on the board of BFF Austin. I work for the Wikimedia Foundation, and I love being a nuisance for good causes, especially privacy. When I retire, I make enough money. Decatur, Texas is done for, man.
Hello, Mackenzie.
Hello.
Nothing like showing up right before it starts.
Absolutely.
Let's get started. Let me get this.
Good evening, everyone. I'll go ahead and call to order the regular town council meeting for Tuesday, August 11, 2026. And I'd like to welcome those who joined us live stream to YouTube. And we'll move now to the town of Apex value.
Good evening, Mayor Gilbert and town council members. My name is Tim McClan. I've been an Apex resident for 20 years as of this year. And I want to add my voice to the chorus that's pushing back against ALPR's flock and police drones. Reason that people all over this country are fighting back against these cameras right now. We've all seen it on the news. In Michigan, West Virginia, New York, residents have, out of desperation, cut down these cameras. In California, a driver just rammed his truck into 3 of them in a row. And in Florida, there's a retired man who has spent his days sitting in a lawn chair, holding up a piece of cardboard just to block the camera's lens. These people are frustrated. They're worried about being tracked, and sadly, these people felt the need to take matters into their own hands. Nobody wants that. I don't want that. I know you don't want that. And it's not only individuals. City governments are canceling their flock contracts in Colorado, Oregon, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Washington State. Some of the biggest cities in the country, Los Angeles, Austin, Seattle, Flagstaff, have walked away. And even closer to home, Hillsborough and Pittsburgh have just done the same. Why? It's because the misuse keeps happening. There are not enough controls in place. In Arizona, a police officer used flock to track his own wife. In Mooresville, closer to home, an officer was just arrested for using flock to follow an ex-spouse. And in Georgia, 6 police employees were fired for searching the system to look up family members and acquaintances who had nothing to do with any investigation. 6 people fired in one department. And I want to be clear, every example that I just gave to you happened in the past 7 days, not the past year, the past week. Look, here's where I land. I trust our Apex police. I trust and respect our chief. I trust them with my life and my family's life. We all do. They were trained and they're doing this job. They've been doing this job long before any of this unchecked and unwanted technology existed. And I know that they are capable enough to keep us safe without a camera on every corner or more drones in our skies. We are Apex, the peak of good living. We are not Apex, the peak of surveillance. This is what I want to say. No more cameras, no flock, no Axon, and absolutely no drones. Thank you.
Hi, Steve Burke, GNCA. I am local to the area. I can share an address if I need to privately, but I prepared some remarks for this. I'm going to deviate from them though, because the sign-up form I noticed is digital now. I think previously it was written. How long's it been digital? June. So it's insecure. So all of the data that people are putting in there is visible on a double click. Some of that is public information. A lot of it is not. So there's not necessarily an email address that's tied to a physical address, a name, and a phone number, but they are there. the AI option was also enabled in the browser. Someone here noticed it and turned it off. These are problems. That sends data back to Microsoft or Google or whoever the browser is. This is a data security issue. Apex also, at the beginning of this, I noticed you were talking about overdue balances for utilities. Apex was previously breached in 2024, I believe it was, right? 22,000 people, I think. That data included, I'm going to list it off. This is from Apex's website. Social security numbers, driver's licenses, government-issued ID, passport numbers, financial account information, credit or debit card numbers, email addresses, usernames, passwords, dates of birth, dates of service, health insurance information, medical conditions and or treatment information, medical record number, patient account number, and or telephone number. This is on the Apex website. This was from a breach of, I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was the utilities website. It may have been more. So, I guess where I'm going with this is now we're talking about flock cameras, where flock, as I understand it from the DFlock website for Apex, you have currently over 15 million plate scans in Apex. If Apex can't keep the data safe for the 18 people speaking here today, or for the 22,000 people on the utilities website, I don't think Apex is prepared to handle the security nightmare that is collecting 15 million plates to date. It's completely insane. And this is not just an Apex problem. It can be foreign actors of other states. It can be domestic actors who are just bad actors. All of these people are vectors to tie that data to all the other data breaches out there. And I checked, everyone on this council is in major data breaches online. It's purchasable, easy, like all of you. And that's what everyone's at risk of with Flock as well. Thank you.
George Hogan, Apex resident, DFlock Apex founder, and one of your neighbors. So what happened this summer? We didn't get to meet for a couple months. As a previous resident said, across the country, city after city pulled the plug on this surveillance system. Not just Flock, ALPR, all of it, the whole thing. Council tore up contracts, towns voted the cameras down. Thousands of your neighbors listen to all these people. It might have been me in the beginning, but they are here, and they are not happy. Our members have done the press. Councilman Reese has done the press. The mayor has done the press. And it looked like progress. But while your committee, your public service, public safety committee, sat waiting, the whole country is moving. Apex is not. There's bipartisan legislation in Congress right now to stop this nonsense. Bipartisan. In a country that agrees on nothing. The left and the right looked at the machine that tracks every single driver in America and said the same word. No, we're done with it. The people pushing this surveillance, plenty of police departments and even some on this council, they might call us radical. Wanting to drive to work, drive to church, take the kids to school without the government mapping where I'm going, that's not radical. That's the most American thing you can do. Photographing every car in this town, that's radical. Logging it to a private system owned by known right-wing billionaires is radical. This is radical in this room tonight. If you do not make a decision on taking it down. I am not the radical one here. This council is the radical one. So go back to 2023 when you approved these cameras. Apex was at the lowest crime rate in history. In history. Supplied by the FBI. The lowest ever. No wave, no emergency, no monster at the door. You bought mass surveillance with our money just because. And for the record, there is absolutely no independent evidence that Flock or ALPR reduces crime. The studies that claim that trace right back to the vendor. Violent crime has been luckily falling all over the country. And in the towns that have these cameras and don't, it is the exact same number. There is no impact on this. And there's research that's blanketing the community, and surveillance erodes trust in the police. If you want to back the blue, you want to be proud of the cops, this is not how you do it. Not at all. Now, I want everyone in the room that watch what might happen. Someone up here is going to offer to switch flock with Axon because that's the easy choice. That is not an acceptable choice. Council, you are not the police department. I am not the police department. The chief works for this town, and it's your job to govern it. That is the whole reason we sit here and you sit up there. The radical person in this room is not the neighbor asking to be left alone. It's the government that chose to track us all. We're remembering. You guys bet wrong, we noticed, and we're not going anywhere.
Good evening. So I'm a resident of Apex a couple years now. I'm also a 10-year veteran law enforcement officer in a neighboring jurisdiction, and I offer a little bit of a opposing perspective of what you heard. Keeping it on the consent agenda item, they're kind of co-opting critics of LPRs against the Axon contract, and I really want to validate calls for transparency and accountability. However, I really think the sentiments nationwide are being overblown, and I would caution Apex seriously to think about that. We cannot afford to be misguided on topics where lives and property are at stake. If a flock hit tonight puts the lead on a stolen car coming into Apex that prevented a home invasion of a child being killed, that's a game changer. So I chose to move to Apex because I respected the direction of town governance. I particularly appreciated the intentionality of capacity building and public safety as the areas continue to experience overwhelming growth. I've lived in the Triangle for decades. Criminal activity from non-residents is overwhelming in suburbs like Apex, and a phenomenon that will continue to challenge the resources of our town for decades to come. Durham, for example, has fewer officers than they had in 2004 when the population was 100,000 less. Raleigh, similar numbers. We are fortunate to have extremely competent and thoughtful leadership in our police department. Chief Johansson has built a culture that's attracting some of the brightest officers in the Triangle to the department. I'm confident in them to make informed yet measured decisions about what's best for public safety. I urge you all to remain steadfast in that support of them. Again, Chief Johansson and his staff are the experts in law enforcement. Recognizing that you are doing so does not mean that you don't have to hold them accountable for transparency and accountability in this process, what everyone in here against LPRs and Axon's suite of technologies is advocating for. I agree with that. It's right for the citizens to demand transparency and accountability from their government. What's not right is making public safety decisions based on suppositions instead of empirical evidence and expert leadership. I get that some of it's scarce, but I've emailed you some resources on latest literature showing that this might not be futile. In a gist, a lot of the call for transparency and safeguards discounts what is already being tracked. Every day when we walk around, we're being tracked by corporations for private interests. If you walk around with your cell phone, even older cell phones with Bluetooth beacons, there's advertising and marketing firms that have those beacons in airports and malls that have been tracking you for years.
Well, also the premise of, well, we're tracking this data everywhere else. There was a hearing that I could go to that I could try to defend not having any of that data tracked. I would be at that too. But that's on a national level, that's on a corporate level, that's federal hearings in Congress. That's not something that we get to show up to. We as a local town get to discuss using this stuff. So the whole idea of, well, they're already tracking it, it's sign me up to protest that too, man. I don't like that either. And I've heard that argument before. It's like, well, they're already tracking us. It's like,
What's two wrongs don't make a right.
that's exactly right.
So we're allowing these corporations to track us for their own profits. Why are we not putting surveillance, if you want to call it that, in public places to capture information to maximize law enforcement capacity to do their job? I implore you to think very serious about it and think about the repercussions that could be life or property damage without it. Thank you.
Derek O'Neill.
Hi, my name's Derek O'Neill. I lived here since 2019. I was going to have a different set of remarks, but I think instead what I'm going to do is tell you a story. When I first started working for my company, About 6 months in, I was technical support. Local registrar was having trouble with the business intelligence software that we sold her. Wasn't giving her the numbers she wanted, and she wanted some help with the data. That email contained a CSV with 265,000 social security numbers on it. In one email. That's what a data breach looks like. It's not some hacker in their grandmother's basement hacking away at a keyboard trying to penetrate Flock's defense systems. What it is a misguided public official accidentally giving access to someone that shouldn't have had access to it. It's accidentally leaving on a feature on your web browser when you're taking public remark applications that not only saves it to that laptop, but sends it to Google for analysis. If that same email would have landed in my inbox this year, that email would have been read by Microsoft. It would have gone into Copilot's training. I could have asked my Copilot what the social security number was of John Smith, who's an undergraduate. That's what a data breach looks like. Our Flock system for Apex Police Department has granted access to 1,191 different agencies across the country. Now, we were told that no federal agencies would be involved, and as our chief described, a snafu happened where they accidentally gave access to 2 federal agencies. Snafu, situation normal, all effed up. I don't want that to be the normal situation. Also, to the point of we have corporate overlords tracking our every moment, that's not like a goal. Google Graphene OS if you want to not have stuff tracked on your phone. But anyway, 1,191 agencies across the country. One of them is the Florida Wildlife and Fish Police Department. What do they need? Did we catch too small a bass and keep it? What are we doing? I'm beside myself. If you think that out of those 1,191 agencies, not a single one of them is laundering requests from the federal government and then just quietly emailing a CSV with the results, I have a bridge to sell you. That's not how this stuff works. That's not our FBI, ICE, they are not behaving themselves. Washington University already uncovered this exact thing happening. Federal agencies are getting access to local municipalities' data through side channels. It's happening today and for the past year.
Good afternoon. I've come here today to talk about flock cameras and the ways it can be misused by a myriad of people. With flock cameras being widespread as they are, I would like to highlight a few cases of the way the system can be abused to surveil innocent people. The flock camera system has multiple known vulnerabilities which were published in the National Vulnerability Database, which is funded by the Department of Homeland Security. As widely publicized by Ben Jordan, these vulnerabilities allow for bad actors to easily access the data created by the cameras, allowing me, you, and anyone who's in this room to be tracked by anyone who wishes to do us harm. These cameras can also be exploited by police officers. For example, as mentioned before, in the town of Morrisville, which is about 6 miles north of here. As reported by ABC, the officer allegedly used the flock camera network to track her boyfriend's ex-wife 31 times. And that is unacceptable. My final example, according to the research done by Jason Hunyar, by using flock event logs, which he obtained by using open records request in Dunway, Georgia, he found possible evidence of flock employees using their camera systems to violate the privacy of the residents of that town. This means by using flock cameras in our area, you will be allowing the possibility of the employees of a private company to violate the privacy of every single one of your voters and their families, including the most vulnerable members of our community, the children. The role of the town council is to create ordinances that protect its citizens, including their privacy. I hope the example I provided today will be enough to convince you to ask for the removal of the cameras and to fulfill your duty and represent the town's best interest. Thank you. I passed the sheet with the QR codes. That has like information on sources and how I came to conclusion. So if someone disputes me or if you don't believe me, you can kind of understand how I came to the conclusions I did.
Good evening. This is about the Environmental Advisory Board Data Center Subcommittee meetings. I had planned to attend last Wednesday's subcommittee meeting, but couldn't make it, so I figured, well, I'll just go on YouTube and find the live streamed recording. Imagine my surprise when none of those are on YouTube. Could not find it. Why not? I found Parks and Rec meetings, Culture and Arts meetings, and multimodal transportation meetings, but no recordings about one of the most important and pressing issues facing our communities. These meetings covered data center water and energy use. Again, I ask, why are they not live streamed? It demonstrates a lack of transparency. This is what we feared when you all voted against Mayor Gilbert's proposal to have residents more involved in research during the one-year moratorium. These are the constituents who had already spent a lot of energy and time researching data centers. We were told, don't worry, Apex and the EAB could handle it. We see how you're handling it by controlling information. This is unacceptable. Minutes of meetings are not enough. Resident call-in and subcommittee meetings should be combined so that the public can ask experts questions. Moving forward, we expect to see live-streamed data center recordings on YouTube, as well as links to minutes, transcripts, and meeting announcements on the homepage of Apex website, and also announcements at town council meetings. That would be more transparent, which you claim to be. Thank you.
Hello.
How do you think that went?
I was actually thoroughly impressed with the veracity of the speakers and how compelling they were. It was very, very, very engaging and very entertaining, honestly.
I was very happy to hear that nobody clapped for the pro-surveillance gentleman.
There were a couple claps.
I shouldn't say nobody, but it was a much lower number than I would have imagined there being.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Did you feel sad that nobody clapped for the pro-surveillance gentleman?
Yeah, I kind of almost shed a tear, honestly.
Did it make you sad, though?
It made me really sad.
It made me sad as well, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Love all your videos, love all the stuff you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
What about her?
Yeah.
She does all the work. I didn't even know flock cameras existed before I met her.
Enough videos.
That's not true.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I didn't even know flock existed before I met Mackenzie. Mackenzie, say a few words.
Say a few words about Flock, about...
Yeah.
I wish we could have gotten more from that man. He was the first one to speak, if people didn't know.
Where is
Extremely
he?
compelling. Came for their throats. I really like to see that. But when I started this work in June 2025, I feel like people were hesitant to come at the council's throats and really be angry about it like they should. And now that I feel like it's reached a peak, and Ben Jordan and Lewis and Steve and all these people have been talking about it, people are, rightly expressing this immense amount of anger that they have. And it was really, really awesome to see all these
I think
people
you were
come.
talking about this back in 2024. It's just, I think you had mentioned ALPR, and I had no idea. It was just an acronym, and it
Yeah.
sounded like a boring acronym. And
That's
I thought,
true.
what? I remember thinking, why should I care about this at all?
I guess I was, in 2024 I was still like on the surveillance front, right? But I don't think I got really involved in the fight until they brought it to Austin City Council. Steve, you did so good. You did so good. Yeah, you did. You came for the throats. You said all of your information is online. Also, everybody that put the information in today is online. It was good.
I threw away my script, but I'm glad I did because a lot of the other people said basically all the stuff I'd written down. It was all covered very well by people. So I don't know. I guess my hope is that the stuff I went with is a little more localized to specifically the council.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's super compelling. I think especially like I wouldn't be surprised if they'd signed NDAs related to action on our flock. That's super common, which like they won't be able to tell you anyway because they have gag orders. I feel like they're prepped, especially by flock people that sell flock and the police about, oh, they're going to say their vulnerabilities, they're going to say this. But when you bring it close to home and say, this is not some out in the ether problem, this is your problem.
some behind the scenes, I guess, for people. You're streaming, right?
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So for people,
2 megabit per second, baby.
did you say 2 megabits?
2 megabit per
Holy
second,
shit.
baby.
Okay, I'm on your channel, so I can swear.
I'm curious, when did you find the information when you said, oh yeah, that there was a data breach right here with the form? Was that something that you knew for a long time?
Talking
was
about
that
the utilities one?
I'm Googling while I'm getting my food at Whataburger this morning kind of thing.
The utilities one I mentioned?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I knew about for a while, and I totally forgot about
The
it.
AI mode turned on in the browser. What about that one?
The AI in the browser one, what I saw was the form storing the names and addresses.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously very hyper aware of that. And so I resolved it for myself, but then I think it was you, right, who saw the AI. Yeah, so one of the guys in the audience saw the AI features enabled.
Yep.
And I think you turned it off. Yeah, thank you.
We would love to hear from you. You had a lot of really cool stuff to say.
Hey,
Thank you for coming
what
by.
is your name?
Derek O'Neill.
Derek, Mackenzie.
Mackenzie, nice to meet you too.
Okay, yes, you saw the AI turned on when they went to sign up. Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, so they recently switched apparently. When we were doing the database stuff, it was all paper, to doing, it's not Google Forms, but it's something similar. And I went up there, I go and I put in my first name, and it helpfully provides me with every first name that has been entered on that laptop for the form. I tab over, helpfully provides me with every last name. Tab again, every address, and because it's, thank you, love. And because it's, it's all correlated together, it, formatted everything in these helpful ID cards. I can see everybody who's signed up for it. And I think one of the council members made a point, oh, well, people's names and addresses for public speaking is public information. Sure it is. But I do my best to not tie that to my email address. I do my best to not tie that to my phone number, etc. So
Also, who says they gave that information to Google to train on whatever the hell?
That wasn't intentional, though. That wasn't. That wasn't intentional. So when they say that, they're trying to make it sound like that was a decision that they actually made versus I have not had a lesson on cybersecurity since Internet Explorer 6.
We thought about this. We considered it heavily, and so I'm sure that's exactly why.
And you saw through that shit immediately.
I'm sure that's why in less than a year they were able to somehow carefully consider and then approve nearly 1,200 outside agencies to access our flock data.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me too. So yeah, when I saw the cards up, I just instantly brought up the settings, saw that retaining the names, addresses, and also the AI suggestions were enabled. So I'm looking forward to asking Gemini a month from now what my email address is.
Yeah, it really gives me a lot of confidence in the council that they know the data security risks and they know how to address them. Apologies,
and it's actually like what made me change what I was going to say when I was up there. Because I had a bunch of ideas for what I was going to talk about for the statistics, but then I remembered that email I got when I was starting out in tech support where this well-meaning registrar from a small community college just not accidentally, but sent me 260,000 social security numbers. This is how data leaks happen. It's not like people breaking databases. That's how the big ones is what makes headlines, but it's officials in small towns just like this one mishandling data just because they don't know better.
I mean, it's also like I have a buddy a couple counties over, and maybe they have a flock contract that's removed, and I know he's a good guy. I know he's a good guy on police force, and I know he's trying to solve things, so I'm just going to do the search for him, and I'm going to send it.
Exactly. And so I think Washington State University did a study where they saw 11 of their own police departments were basically getting federal requests in through the side door and then laundering for them. I call it laundering because I think it's what's appropriate.
Yeah. This is like the classic in all kind of data security situations, right? It's always a person that either means well or doesn't, and they have access to a little too much, and it's just human nature, right? It's the fact that this data shouldn't exist in the first place to enable that kind of natural human curiosity and want to help and share and enable.
That's kind of exactly what I was going to say. Is like the best defense against a data breach is for the data to not be there to take. right? If you go back and you watch, I think it was the June 9th comments from the police chief here. He's like, oh, this is local data. We own it. Even if they subpoena Flock can't provide the data. Sure thing. But also, you accidentally gave access to 2 federal agencies. We still don't have an explanation for how that happened.
We're also not sure it's an accident.
Right. So the promise to the town and the residents of the town was that it would never be shared with federal agencies. But
This is a classic. All over the country, I hear over and over and over again, we will not collaborate with ICE. We have never collaborated with ICE. And lo and behold, Officer Joe Brown has given, 17 searches to ICE in the past month. It's classic.
Have you ever seen what a Flock network expansion email looks like?
I have not. What does it look
They're
like?
actually a matter of public record. So it's this great thing. It says on the top, it says, "Great news, your network is expanding," and then it gives you a list of all of the organizations that are trying to access your data, and it just gives you a link that you can click and just approve. I'm sure that's not what happened though.
That's insane. And I'm sure they don't include, the retention limits that maybe the city council has set for themselves, or maybe the commitments that the city council has made about their data to their citizens. I'm sure it doesn't include any of that.
And I don't think they're accounting for the sort of modern world we find ourselves in. What if someone who's accessing this Flock data has Windows Recall turned on, and it snapshots a screenshot of my location data? That retention isn't 30 days.
I would love for you to go up there and ask how many of them have heard of Windows Recall.
Everybody say hello to our correspondent for WRRG.
Hello. Let me peep in the room real quick to see if it looks like the speakers that we're looking after.
Are you profiling people? Yo, she's profiling.
Doesn't look like who's
people.
speaking right now is our typical nerdy friends.
Wait, so only nerds can care about privacy? Okay.
I mean, largely, yeah. I include myself in that category for sure.
Only nerds can care about privacy.
I think that's on you for thinking nerd is a pejorative, frankly.
She got me.
North Carolina statute, private citizens don't have retention limits for license plate readers.
What town had their council meeting 100 miles away? Bastrop, Texas, right outside of Austin, had their city council meeting in Fredericksburg, Texas, over 100 miles from where their city is, about data centers and Flock cameras.
If you guys weren't such fucking bullies, they wouldn't have to travel 100 miles away.
It's mostly the fault of...
It's for safety.
It's mostly the fault of you, and mostly, and let's be real, mostly Mackenzie.
I will say, I do have a pretty imposing stature. When I show up, people they get pretty scared.
I think part of advocacy is paying attention where hope presents itself. And I think our success with keeping the data center away here, I think the fact that the town council has put up separate meetings to listen to us outside of this. Obviously, this feels very rushed, right? You've got your 3 minutes to talk. There were no time limits at that extra meeting. There were back and forth between council members. They listened. They had comments. They had questions for us. We answered those questions. I'm very hopeful.
Nice. Good on them for doing that, honestly. You don't hear that very often at all.
I was super impressed.
I hate that even the guy who was pro Flock, even his point was that you don't have any expectation of privacy in public.
That was complete bull.
Absolute bullshit.
In a gist, a lot of the call for transparency and safeguards discounts what is already being tracked. Every day when we walk around, we're being tracked by corporations for private interests. If you walk around with your cell phone, even older cell phones with Bluetooth beacons, there's advertising and marketing firms that have those beacons in airports and malls that have been tracking you for years.
I can turn off Bluetooth on my phone, man. When he was
Oh,
saying,
so I
well,
could leave
you're
my
getting
phone at
followed
home?
everywhere. I could turn off Bluetooth on my phone. It's a choice to have that level of tracking, right? Like, I can choose to use a browser that's tracking me. I can choose whether or not to use Instagram. So when you compare a road, if you don't want to use a road, there's really one way to do that, which is not leaving your house. That's very different. And like when they're trying to tie two issues that really matter together, and that's something you'll hear them do a lot. They'll say that there is so look, you have Apple has released this independent repair provider program, and look at all the products they have on their website. I mean, they're really trying. And then you look on the website and you see like ribbon cables for $10, and it ignores the fact that you can't get a schematic or a part or anything. Yeah. It's just to try to muddy the waters. And usually muddying the waters is one of the best things that you can do if you want people to just keep doing what they're doing already without changing course.
Not only that, but when has it ever been a valuable or useful argument to say things are bad? Let's make it worse. Let's do more. I don't like this either. Everyone's tracking us, but why don't we do it more? Why don't we do it when you go to the park, actually? The one place of
Money off
solace.
of it, but now let's get the government in on that dough as well. You know, just the private companies, that's not enough. Let's add to it.
So you came out to support the anti-flog movement, I guess?
Yes.
I assume if you're standing here.
Yes. So I have a bachelor's in cybersecurity, native to the area as well, and just seeing all the ways this can be abused, combined with just how incredibly incompetent the solution really is, makes this just unacceptable. If you have no proof that it's truly systematically a benefit, there should be no question about whether or not it should be here. When I was in the military, that was called fraud, waste, and abuse. When it's here, it's just called whatever. Do what you want. And that's not how decisions should be made. They should be made based on facts, and the evidence should be based on research that is clearly unbiased. I was taught in high school how to identify that this type of research would not be an acceptable source that I can use in a research paper. And that's as a teenager. And as a teenager,
The biggest one is the vendor funding them in the first place, right? Which prompts these researchers to give back a certain result, but also very small sample sizes, very select groups of people. I know when we were protesting LiveView back in September, they kept saying the study, the study, the study. Turns out they funded the study at a university in Florida for only college students on a college campus.
Right.
Which, I mean, like you said, has a plethora of problems. I can think of a lot of things I learned in 7th grade science about why that shouldn't be a reliable source, but because they have an agenda, that suddenly becomes gospel. It's
Right,
definitely
right.
true, and it's applicable to the entirety of the United States, including our city, where I conveniently may or may not have been paid by Flock or Axon to sign these contracts, right?
anytime that the government is interacting with a for-profit company, and the for-profit company is marketing directly to the government in a way that profits them, there needs to be absolute transparency for how it's going to benefit and continue to benefit the people, because they only have a monetary incentive. So at any time, if the money is not in it for a way that actually helps push their needs, their business needs forward, it will come at the expense of the people's.
Hell yeah. When did you learn about Flock and Axon and surveillance in the area?
Probably, so in the area, only recently with some of the stuff that Steve has been posting, especially since he's, local, as well as obviously the name that he has. But I've been seeing it come up more and more across the country. Didn't sit well that that's happening really at all. And then when I saw that there was a vote to have it here, that was a pretty mind-bending to me, actually. I was pretty surprised by that. So wanted to come out and hopefully give them some context.
Yeah, it's sort of part of the playbook, right? They don't really want you to know that this stuff is up, so they pass it pretty...
That's right. That's the whole thing.
It's crazy with how much they talk about the budgets in all these small towns across America being diminished and not having money to spend on shit.
I think any system is ultimately going to be insecure. I work in technology, and it's not a matter of if you're going to be compromised. You're going to be compromised at some point, and to what extent. So if you capture data, you have to assume it's going to be misused and compromised one way or another. So we probably shouldn't be capturing this.
What would you as a technologist say to the person that was sort of pro-Flock up there that said, well, we're captured everywhere all the time anyway, so what's the problem if Flock doesn't?
Well, it's the same argument made earlier. It's that just because it's being done doesn't mean it's right. We don't have a choice in the matter right now. That we have a choice not to use those systems. Yeah. But ultimately, whether you're buying a newer vehicle or something else, sometimes you have no choice in the matter because we don't have that choice. But they have a choice right now not to extend that. So as a result, we shouldn't be making it worse just because we can. This goes back to the argument, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
You have a choice whether or not to have Bluetooth on your phone, because you use the example of a Bluetooth beacon.
Right.
I can turn Bluetooth off on my phone. You can have MAC address spoofing in your operating system if you can choose the operating system on your phone, which some phones still let you do.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things you can do to mitigate that. You can't really mitigate, I need to go to work, I'm going to make my own alternative highway. That you can't do. The libertarians, I think that they overdo how much choice you have in the modern economy, but you really do have some sense of choice in the websites you go to and the services, some of the services you use. But if your work is down the street or you need to leave your house over here, your choice at that point is, well, don't live here. And, well, that's an option, but I don't think that that's the one that they're looking for.
Well, also the premise of well, we're tracking the state everywhere else. There was a hearing that I could go to that I could try to defend not having any of that data tracked. I would be at that too. But that's on a national level, that's on a corporate level, that's federal hearings in Congress. That's not something that we get to show up to. We as a local town get to discuss using this stuff. So the whole idea of, well, they're already tracking it, it's sign me up to protest that too, man. I don't like that either. And I've heard that argument before. It's like, well, they're already tracking us. It's like,
What's two wrongs don't make a right.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, so you're just going to add more to it?
Yeah. And let alone the whole thing with Flock, the real-time data, the location tracking, the license plate, okay, so you have this big pool of data of websites you go to and the food ordering apps that you use and the stuff you search and the whatever. And now you're physically linking that to physical locations of vehicles and footage. How does that not worry people?
It does worry me.
No, I know.
I drive a 2008 truck for a reason.
Yeah. No, same thing, yeah.
But that is a good question. Why do you think for me, I feel like I hear this all the time that people they don't like the tracking, but they're fine with it. And I think it's because they don't really understand what's happening on the back end at all. They just kind of assume it's happening out there somewhere and they're doing something with it. They're selling me stuff, but they cannot, as people that aren't technologists, really think about what these people could do and what they are actively doing with this data.
Well, there's nothing convenient for citizens in this. So if you're using a social media platform, using Uber, using whatever else, they're getting something they think out of it. But for this, it's only impacting law enforcement. Yeah. So people aren't getting anything out of it as well. It's really, really not desirable for that reason alone. Not that we should pick those things for that reason, but because there's absolutely nothing for it. I mean, people should be outraged if they know what's being done. Yeah. And I'll be honest, I didn't know all the examples presented tonight. I'm actually even more worried after hearing those examples.
Yeah.
The thing also is it removes, in most cases, it removes the checks and balances. So I work at a private company. When I go on site, we have security cameras everywhere. I think there's a lot of people that would fall prey to be like, it's just security cameras. We already have security cameras. They're, whatever. But for example, at my company, if something happened or somebody stole a car and drove in and the police wanted the security footage, they would have to go to our company, ask for the footage. We could say no. They can get a warrant, they can subpoena, there's a process, there's checks and balances, there's due process.
Fiction.
But there's all these things that if
there's also not the ability for the guy in the background to be like Griffin in a gray shirt at 17:23 p.m.
Exactly, right? So if there's that check and balance, but we're talking about removing that. We're talking about putting cameras in public locations that are going directly to law enforcement. That's insane.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I also don't think people really know what they're about to lose. Yes. Privacy and the ability not to be watched has sort of been presumed in certain aspects of our lives for our entire lives. At a park, I feel free to associate. If I'm learning how to do a cartwheel, I feel free to go to a park and just tumble around and not feel like it's going to be exposed somewhere or someone's going to spy on me. Or I feel free to associate with people. I feel free to share ideas that maybe I wouldn't want exposed in a job setting or to my family who are, of different political and social leanings than me. And when you lose that and you're constantly watched, it really inhibits your ability to flourish and grow as a person. You stop taking risks. You start thinking about all the possible consequences of everything you're doing. And I think it truly, not to sound dramatic, but I think it is imperative to democracy that people have the ability to.
Exactly what you just said, I did not hear it brought up today, which was just the idea of lawful assembly. Is that, right now there's tracking of cell phones, but there's ideas of, no, leave your cell phones behind or whatever else. But now if you're just driving to the location, even without a cell phone, now the government could, in theory, track the people that are doing that lawful assembly. And if it's not...
Not in theory. They've done it many, many, many times already.
So what I'm saying is that wasn't brought up at all tonight, but that is the eventual... More and more flock cameras are going to cause more of that increase.
Yeah. Well, I think the point you made too about the freedom of association is that there's this conversation on social media as well of when people would go out when they were younger, before cell phones, before cameras, you could go out to a nightclub or a bar, you could dance, you could have a good time. You weren't afraid of what am I going to do that's going to get recorded. Yeah. And there was that conversation of you could just go be free and you could have fun and not that everyone needed to have alcohol or whatever, but just you could go out and you could have a fun time. It wasn't is this going to end up on social media?
Yeah,
is this embarrassing thing going to go viral or cringe or whatever? And I think that's exactly the point. We've lost that in some places of our society already. You're always concerned about somebody having a cell phone. What if somebody records me? But that's an individual records you and it goes to social media and that's its own beast. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, now you're talking about if I know that there is a camera here that goes directly to local government, police department, like straight to it, like that's not the way that people need to live.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it's also just unnecessary. I mean, I want to support the police. I want to support good police work. But it's also potentially unnecessary for a lot of these cases. So, yeah, the most extreme examples I do want to, be seen. But at the same time, we already know there's going to be misuse. So,
Like George said, the crime rates are already down at historic lows. What do these cameras add?
I mean, if you put a tracking device under all of our skin, that would certainly improve tracking, but that doesn't mean that we should do it. Sure. And this, of course, is not to that level. That's certainly hyperbole, but it's in that direction.
I don't know, man. It's getting close. It's getting pretty close.
Yeah, but a lot of it's voluntary. It's carrying a cell phone. This is something you can't voluntarily opt out of, except for not leaving your home.
Well, thank y'all. I really appreciate y'all's time. When I retire, I make enough money. Decatur, Texas is done for, man. Yeah, we want to ask you a question.
One question.
We want to ask what it was like to talk in front of city council for the very first time. How did you feel? How did you prepare?
Not the very first time, but the first time here and the first time in a long time.
Okay.
The last ones I did were all about development. So it was like opposing development. First one I did was probably early 20s or late teens. The thing I remember from that was complete and absolute disillusionment with the process, because I went in and I was very prepared. So I went up and I looked up what's the traffic in the area, how is it impacted by the developments, and pulled all these numbers, water quality numbers, whatever. There were a bunch of other people opposed as well. And I just remember the council saying, this is going to be very hard. We're going to have to talk for a long time about this. The citizens and residents have brought up good points. Let's take a vote. And then they immediately vote in favor of the developer. It's just like, that was the last one I went to for until now.
What made you feel good trying again after the first time you got completely ignored after putting all the work in? Like, what made you decide I'm going to do it again?
I think the big difference for me is, for lack of phrasing it differently, but growing up a little bit, like realizing it's not all about like you're going to win this one. That took some learning. Like, it's not, you don't get all of them. And in particular, this issue is also a lot more in the public eye, and it's not just like literally one neighborhood that's pissed, right? It's like everyone in the whole city is aware of the issue. So.
Yeah, I remember, I think that when you announced this, you got a lot of people to decide that they were not going to just let being disillusioned get to them, and they actually showed up. And I remember one of the things you were saying is the worry is, what if nobody shows up and nobody cares? But
yeah.
You used up all of their time. There was no time left, and they had to go into overflow because of how many people just kind of followed your example.
Well, my first concern, as you remember, was the general nervousness, where it's funny, right? Like presenting to a camera, even if whatever 5 million people watch me bitch about a Walmart computer, it's very different from public speaking. And I think for me, a lot of that is like you've really got one really good shot to try to make your point, and if you're going to come back to one of these later and you've kind of ruined your credibility, you look like a lunatic or whatever, it's not going to work next time. So I think as far as the disillusionment, having come from a feeling of being disillusioned previously, looking at it now, I think it's just at that point of like, I'd rather at least do something and fail, than later be like, be upset at the situation we're in, having not tried at all, I guess. And you see it around the U.S. where this is working in a lot of towns. So it's very encouraging.
Thank you for setting an
people
example.
in power benefit a lot from you thinking that 1 or 2 or 3 voices can't change much. But there's that famous rule about the 3.5%, that if 3.5% of people really care about an issue and are move makers, that it like vastly impacts society. What do you think? Because earlier you said, well, I'm not going to win this one. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it's still important for people to come out and engage in these topics, even if they think they might not win in the long run?
I have a good answer for that one. So one of the anti-development ones I went to, there was older guy who got up and spoke, and it was not related to the development or anything. He was working with the town on a tree planting project, and he was doing he was just trying to get their support to fund planting trees in a particular area. Long story short is, the issue I was there for, we failed. They did what we didn't want them to do. He was there for a different thing. I really liked what he said. I thought he was well-spoken. I thought he had a great plan. And so after it was over, I went and found that guy, and I was like, can I get your information? And we worked together for several years on various tree planting projects in the area. In more recent years, I just funded it, and he went and did all the hard work of talking to the councils. But it's stuff like that, I think, where it's like you gain something that's not necessarily just the issue you're going there for. So in the instance of this one, gain a connection, and then he gives me all this new insight to the process, and it's like, okay, we lost that issue, but he went on and did a lot of great things, and I was happy to have helped with some of that. So I think there's good reasons to go anyway, because it's community building, right? Like it's very easy, especially being on the internet and your job being YouTube, to just forget that you can actually know your literal neighbors and work with them. And I think this type of thing helps people remember that. So
That's a beautiful answer. Beautiful answer.
well, hopefully any of it made sense, because I've been here for a while now. So
That's true. We're probably
go
going to
home?
head out soon.
I'll keep working. I got to do a video with you too when you're done
Absolutely.
with your stream.
I'll be here tomorrow too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll be here until what, 2-ish?
The plane is at 4. The plane leaves at 4, so I can work until probably 3:30,
Does your
3:45.
audience understand what you guys did to get here today? Have you explained
Probably not, no.
Because you messaged me yesterday, Lewis, and you were like, I'm going to try to get out there. And I was kind of like, okay, whatever. I mean, that'd be awesome, but it's 2 p.m. on the day before, whatever it was.
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
was
it's going to
fun.
happen.
We got hit with the surge pricing. But we made up for it by renting a car that cost about $13.
Nice. Okay.
And Mackenzie can speak about why that car is worth about $13.
And just because I know there's going to be a ton of comments, I'll introduce myself again. My name is Mackenzie Ryan. I'm a digital rights attorney. I'm on the board of VFF Austin. I work for the Wikimedia Foundation. And I love being a nuisance for good causes, especially privacy.
Excellent. Thank you for taking the time. And now we turn the camera off. I think that went fucking amazing. One of the things that I've told Steve many, many times, and many over the past at least 5 years, is when I look at your channel, I don't see this as a channel that's just going to be doing hardware reviews. I don't think anybody's even going to remember 5 years from now that you do GPU reviews. I think they're going to know you as someone who fights for consumer rights, consumer protection, and as you can see now at this point, even engaging with your local government. Steve's channel has consistently shown over the past few years that you can actually get a company to change their behavior when you shed light on what they're doing and you tell a good story. And there was no way I was not going to be here to see him start doing that and get his local government to change their behavior by showing up with his community and telling a good story. A lot of people think that there's no point in showing up and they don't have a social structure to encourage them to do so. I did a video on this a few days ago. While that video is uploading, Steve Burke calls me and he's talking about what to say during the hearing. Are these the right things to say? What if nobody shows up? I don't know what I'm going to do with this. And it sounded almost identical to the call that I made to Jessa Jones at iPad Rehab about 12 years ago when I was thinking of showing up to the New York State Legislature and I was iffy about whether or not I would do it. And she said, no, you show up. Actually, you know what, Lewis? I'm going to show up with you, and we're going to have a lot of fun. She was not taking no for an answer in any way, shape, or form, and she wanted to make it a good experience. She wanted to be there when I was talking to people so that I wouldn't feel awkward about doing it. And I thought, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to do that for Steve. I go to Priceline.com. I figure out what surge pricing is for a hotel and a flight, 12 to 14 hours before you want to land. And I showed up here with Mackenzie, who is an exceptional correspondent. I'll put her information down below for anybody who wants to contact her. She's like the David Tobin of Flock in Austin. I mean that in the best way possible. She's a menace. When I say menace, I mean that as a high compliment. And what I'm hoping that this video does, and this video series does when I travel around the country and interview people, is I want as many of you as possible to become a menace in your local community. And when I say menace, I don't mean breaking shit, vandalizing shit, being angry at people. I mean showing up and politely but assertively demonstrating this is not what we're looking for. If you do this, we're voting you out, and we are going to do everything in our power to make it difficult for you legally to be able to install a mass surveillance network where we live at our expense. And everybody who showed up man, you all did a great fucking job. I can't wait to see more of this into the future. And it was great to be here to watch Steve continue to evolve, not just from doing standard consumer protection of how companies are screwing you, but evolving that one step further to we're going to start fixing shit at our local government level as well. Steve is exceptionally talented in not just digging into things, but explaining the things that he digs into in a very entertaining way. And I look forward to seeing what he does as he continues to dig into this into the future. And I hope that it inspires a bunch of people in his local community to realize, yeah, it's not a waste of my time to show up. He showed up, I'm going to do it too. And that just continues going like the butterfly effect. But that's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. And if you'll notice, the channel recently had memberships turned on, and there's also a Patreon link in the video description. 50 cents CPM does not pay for surge pricing on hotels and airlines or the research assistant that I'm looking to get for future videos. I'm looking to start treating the stuff that I'm doing here in a more professional manner, which means actually hiring people and doing a little bit more travel. And since this channel does not have any sponsors, I'm looking to come up with a community curated way to do this. So if you find this stuff valuable, great. If you do not find it valuable, well, I'm going to keep doing it, and you can keep watching with an ad blocker on anyway. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.